right, we're going to talk all about Facebook ads, and Facebook ads is a powerful tool for really any organization, but certainly for churches. And actually one of the things that's great for churches is, unlike in the business world where the competition keeps getting more and more because more and more businesses are using Facebook, more and more churches are using Facebook, but still it's nothing in comparison competition-wise. So it's a very affordable, in terms of return on your investment, approach to marketing, advertising, just spreading word about your church. And so we're going to walk through how to use Facebook ads, all the different components of it. It's not the super in-depth version of a walkthrough because we just wouldn't have time to do all that in this video, but it is definitely in-depth. Like, we're going to go through each piece. I'll show you around the Facebook Ads Manager the different pieces that you can use, and then we'll put an ad together at the end so you can see how it all applies. So to start out with, we're in Business Manager now. So this is something Facebook calls Business Manager. In previous years, Facebook ads were really tied to your personal Facebook ad account, and they still kind of are, but Facebook was smart to add this Business Manager solution in there, and it's kind of an in-between because they knew a lot of companies, of course, were the ones running ads on their platform, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense to have ad accounts tied so much to a person as it did to a company. And they knew that companies would want to have multiple staff on the ad account, or lots of businesses outsource this to some other company that manages the ads for them. And Business Manager helps you do all of that, because in Business Manager, you can have different users, you can give rights to different people, things like that. So usually now, this wasn't true years ago, but now when you get started with Facebook ads, you would create a business and you would attach that to your page on Facebook. Now you're looking at four different businesses that I have access to or a part of, and we're going to jump into my church one because that will be the most relevant here. And so when you go into Business Manager and you click on that, you end up on this screen here, which is kind of like the home page of Business Manager. It will show you any pages that you've attached to that Business Manager profile. We actually have more Facebook pages than this in our church. We just haven't attached them all here, and that's fine. They don't have to be. And then they have, at the top here, are ad accounts. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to jump into the ad account there in a minute. But on the left here, there's a place for business settings. These are the kind of things that you'll put in as you create the account. Here are different people that have access to our church's Business Manager. So a lot of that you would set up in the beginning, but there's a lot of stuff too that you actually don't have to set up. It's optional things that you don't need to get started with ads. So I'm going to go ahead and click on, and if you were creating a brand new, you'd have to create a new ad account. And I'm not going to do that because I can't do that without creating something then that is not going to be used. But if you do, once you create that ad account, and again, you're just going to give it some information, it would show up here. And so this, here is listed as the CCC ad account. And then when I mouse over it, it says View in Ads Manager. So I'm going to click on that. And we're going to live here for a lot of this call because the Ads Manager is where a lot of this stuff happens. So I'm going to walk through what this Ads Manager screen looks like and what goes where, and it can be very overwhelming and confusing, which is why I hope this video will be helpful. So this is the dashboard. This could literally change next month. That's one of the hard things about Facebook ads is, I would say it hasn't changed dramatically in the 5+ years that I've used it, but it does change from time to time. The policies change, you got to keep up on that. So there's a lot that can change in here. But for the most part, it looks like this. At the top here, they give announcements. So for instance, here it's saying, hey, additional information, we recently detected activity. Basically what they're saying is we refunded this amount. So our church got a whole 9 cents back. Like, yes, it's going to be amazing. So they put all kinds of announcements up there. It might be an update to the policy, might be something like that. So that's at the top. On the right over here, what I want to show you is it tells you, say updated just now, there's kind of like an auto save feature to it. Plus there are some things you have to intentionally save, but that just tells you if it's, saving or in the process or whatever. And then there's always this date window. It kind of defaults to the last 7 days. As you can see, it says here. So all the data that it's showing us below is the last 7 days. Usually, you could do whatever you want with that. I know when I'm analyzing how our ads are doing, I will look at the lifetime of it, which I'm going to click in a minute. I'll look at the last 7 days, and sometimes I'll even look at the last 2 days. Like one thing I have observed, not necessarily with our church ads, but with our other ads, like with Ministry Boost and things like that, that on the weekend the ad performance goes down significantly. And maybe that makes sense because, we're mostly advertising to church leaders who are doing their job during the week, and Sunday they're, having services and things like that. So they're not watching then. So they're probably more inclined to engage in something like that Monday to Thursday. I'm sure it's different. It's different for every industry and all of that. So I'm going to click right now to drop that counter down. You can give it a very specific window. Give me these 3 days, give me these 3 months. I'm going to pick lifetime at the top here. And what you'll see is now it updates every ad below, because all of these ads, if you're looking at the lifetime, right, they're all going to show you some data, even the ones that haven't been active for a while, for months. There's shortcuts, like you can pick today. You can pick, and look, you can see in 1 day, we spent $7.55. I'm over here in this column for 53 impressions of reach. Reach is a term, I'll go through each of these in a minute, but reach is a term at Facebook, means how many people saw it. So $9.71, $1.10. So we're running 3 ads currently. You can see on the left here, we've named the campaigns. Corn Maze, so that's an event that's coming up. Ramsey Plus, we're using the Dave Ramsey Plus solution with our church, where we can offer people access to those Ramsey solution resources online. And so that's new. We're hosting a blood drive in partnership with the Red Cross. And so these are all kind of awareness things about what's going on in our church. Right now, none of these are what I would consider like an outward focused reach, new people type of ad. The outdoor service was one of those, but even small groups here, which we did a small group push, and starter group, were helping people take another step who already attend our church. So let's just start over with the top tabs. And this is where I think, in my opinion, Facebook ads can get really confusing. Every ad has 3 major parts to it as you're creating it. There's the campaign level, which that's this first tab here. Then within that, there's the ad set level. And don't pay attention to what I'm going to click on, like what's below, just see that I'm clicking the tabs. And then there's the ad level. And the reason for that is, if I go back to the campaign level, the campaign is like the major umbrella. It's like, okay, what is this campaign all about? In the case of this first ad, it's about telling people about the corn maze. So that's the umbrella thing. In Facebook world, the campaign level is where you say what the objective is. Is it just sending traffic to a website? Is it just awareness and people need to see it? Is it to get views on a video? Is it to download something? Like Facebook gives you lots of different options for objectives, and you set that at the campaign level. It's kind of the umbrella. There's also something newer in Facebook, and I think it's Facebook ads. I think it's what they want to move towards, and it's called campaign budget optimization. Previously, you would set your budget at the ad set level, the next level down, and you can still do that. That's still an option. But they'd introduced this campaign budget optimization, meaning you can turn it on or turn it off. If you turn it on, you're saying, hey, manage my money that I'm spending as best you can across the entire campaign. And Facebook is really smart with that. The algorithm's really good. So I would recommend using that from now on, even though it's a newer feature, probably in the last 9 months or so. I think it'll eventually be the primary feature, but right now it's just an option. So you do those things at the campaign level. And again, we're going to look at that. And then at the ad set level, that's where you start saying, okay, I want this to go to, it's a website traffic, which most of the ones you do will be some kind of website traffic. It's where you set up the creative, like, are we going to do a bunch of images? Is it a video? You don't give them that yet. That's at the ad level, but here you're just saying, hey, I'm going to use this kind of, Facebook calls it creative. What it means is pictures and video. It's a nice way of saying pictures and video. That's where you determine the audience at the ad set level. That's where you're going to say, hey, here's who we're sending these ads to. It's also where you determine where you want the ads to show. Again, Facebook has lots of placements, is what they call them. But like the desktop version of Facebook, on the right, there's ads. In the main feed, there are ads. On mobile, they consider that a different placement on mobile when you're scrolling, which is probably where you mostly see those ads. If you click in stories in Facebook or Instagram, that's another 2 different placements. Instagram itself is another placement, right? So there's tons of placements, so to speak, that Facebook calls them, meaning where your ad will show up when people see it. Most of the time, you're going to say, place them wherever. And Facebook will run it and use its algorithm to figure out where you're getting the best return on your investment. And that's great. Sometimes you'll say, no, I only want you to use these placements. Like for instance, it would be, I see this all the time. I think it's really good marketing where somebody creates a video vertically on their phone, right? Or they shoot it regular, but they make it look like it's vertical on a phone. And they use that as a story ad in Facebook or Instagram. And so when they make their ad, they're saying only show this in stories because that vertical video could be shown in the main feed, but it would look out of place, wouldn't it? It'd be like, wait a minute, why is there like black bars on the side of this? You didn't format this correctly. And so again, it could work, and Facebook will even help adapt that. But really good marketers that use Facebook create that kind of video or that image or whatever to match, the placement that it's going to show up on. So that's one example of that. The ad set level is also where you really fine tune your budget and your schedule, meaning run this ad all the time or run it Monday through Friday. And again, you can even fine tune the budget more, like spend $200 over the life of the ad or spend $10 a day or whatever that might be. And then finally, the ads level is the most self-explanatory because it's where the ads are. So that's where you say, hey, here's the text that's going to go in the ads. Here's the image or the video that's going to go in the ads. Here's the link that we're sending people to, that this ad is, trying to get them to go to. And then here's how we're going to track it. So if I go back to campaign, and we'll walk through this from beginning to end, but when I go back to the campaign, if I click on the core maze, you'll see what happens is we go from this tab to the ad set tab. Did you see how the tab changed up here? And because what I just said was, I'm on the page with all the campaigns, I'm saying, give me this campaign. So I click on it. So it takes me to the ad set level. And then it shows me it's a $25 lifetime budget, right? The results, it's reached 53 people. Reach in Facebook, again, means how many people saw it. And then impressions means how many times it was seen. And there's a slight difference there, right? Now, in this case, it's the same number. 53 people saw it 53 times. But your ad could absolutely be seen multiple times. So it wouldn't be odd for this to say 53 people saw it 75 times. So on average, people saw it more than once. And then it'll tell you cost per result. And again, right now it's saying cost per 1,000 people reached. This goes back to the objective. If I told Facebook my objective was for people to download this resource, and when they do, they end up on this page, well, then it would be cost per people that downloaded it and ended up on that page, right? And we'll talk about how to do that. So amount spent. Now again, remember at the top here, we're still on today. So if I come up here and I click this and choose lifetime, now you can see where 689 people have seen it 716 times. So a little more than one on average, and it's cost $4.95 for every 1,000 people to see it, which is pretty good. You think about that kind of spend. We can't get, in a church of 1,000, you can't get probably 689 people to read the program. If you use a bulletin or a program, something like that, and you'd probably pay $5 just for them to actually do that. Now, it is an ad, it is social media. So reach and seen, it's pretty subjective, right? Somebody might have looked at it and read the whole thing. Somebody else might have saw it for just enough seconds, 2 seconds, 3 seconds for Facebook to consider that a reach. So all reach is not the same. Here it tells me amount spent, when it ends. Frequency means how often it was seen. So remember, if we go back 689 ads, or it was reached 689 people, and they saw it 716 times. If you divide 716 by 689, that's how you get the 1.04. And it's common on bigger ads that you run for a longer time that frequency could get even higher, like closer to 2 times. And then it'll tell me link clicks. Now this is a dashboard. All of this that we're in, it's a dashboard showing you data. So you can come up here to columns, and it defaults to performance. And that is what determines which columns I'm seeing now in the Ads Manager. I tend to there's all kinds of different ones too, setup, delivery. And I just think all of that is you don't need that. To me, stick with the default or choose performance and clicks. Those are the two that I like the most because almost all the ads we run are pushing people to some link. And so I do like to see performance and clicks because then I can see link clicks, cost per link click, again, 14 cents would be great. click-through rate, that's the percent of people that saw it and clicked through. And again, 3.5% is fine. And one question that will certainly come up is, what are good benchmarks for these numbers? And unfortunately, that's not easy to come up with because it depends on the industry. Church, again, is better in terms of money. I would not say it's better in terms of click-through rate, for example. Most churches won't get as high of a click-through rate as some businesses will, but businesses will pay more for it. So for churches, a lot of these will be cheaper than any business would ever be able to afford or get, not afford. But we don't usually get the same kind of performance too. So here under clicks at all, see here it says link clicks. That means they clicked it, went to our site about the Corn Maze ad. Clicks all means they clicked on it at all. They clicked like, they clicked share, learn more, follow the link. You know how you can expand something in a Facebook post if there's so much text you can't read it without clicking show more? Those all count in this all clicks factor, and then that gives you a separate click-through rate. Now all of this again is probably, I think you want to look at these things, but for the most part I look at cost per result, and it just depends on, are we talking about reach like this is here, links, clicks to the site, downloads, something like that. I would love to, if I had the time and it was worth it, get into all the other analytics and really optimize my ads. But when it comes to running ads for your church, you just want to make it as simple as you can because it can get so complex. So I wouldn't get into all that. So that we're in the ad set level here. We looked at this data in the ad set level. I'm going to click it one more time, which will take me to the ads level. See how now we're on this tab here. And there's only one ad in this ad set. And that's where I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, but if you go back to the campaign level, you could have one umbrella campaign for the Corn Maze, let's say. And then at the ad set level, I could have a different audience. They make this audience of people that go to our church. And then this is a separate audience it's a lookalike audience of those people, that Facebook's trying to figure out who looks like my audience. And then another audience that Facebook believes are parents of kids this age, right? And you could put all those and you'd have 3 different ad sets. This was really popular in Facebook years ago because it was a way to do testing, split testing. Like how does that audience compare to this audience? How does that image compare to this image? Same with ads. You could have 8 different ads because they all run a different image. Well, what's great about Facebook is they knew people were doing this. So they kind of built that into the platform now in a way that's easier. When we create an ad here in a little bit, you'll see that you can give it multiple headlines, multiple descriptions, multiple images in many cases, and Facebook will show them all in all the combinations and figure out which ones are the best and then run that. So you don't have to do multiple ads as much as we used to. So we're at the ad set level now. This is where we're talking about what is the text, what is the picture. In fact, if I click on the box here, I can hit preview and you'll see this is what the ad looks like. So, it says our page at the top, which will always be linked. Ads always have to be linked to a page on Facebook. Here's the text, CCC's Invading Beachmont on Thursday, October 22nd for an evening of fall fun. Click below to grab your tickets. We've got multiple image here. So it's kind of like a carousel type ad is what Facebook will call that. You've probably seen that before. They're really popular with products, clothing, things like that because you can page through them. I know Facebook highly recommends carousel ads. I've done enough of their free calls with their staff where they help you optimize your ads to know that they really recommend those carousel ads. So maybe they do really well. It's probably not the go-to I think of when I think of making an ad, but I do know they push those pretty heavily. At the top here, I can page through and it'll show me like what it looks like in the different placements. Remember I said mobile is a placement, stories is a placement. Well, up here you can see it switched from mobile to desktop newsfeed. So desktop newsfeed, because it's bigger, I can see that arrow and click through it. And it looks like we only put in 2 pieces, 2 images in this carousel. And then you have the option of the third one linking to your website or your Facebook page or something like that. I'm going to page through a couple more. Instant articles, Facebook in-stream video. This would not work for that because of the type of ad it is. So you can click through and see a bunch of these. Our ads aren't going to show there because they were not the media was not designed for that. Let me click here and hit Facebook stories. See, you can't use the carousel, which again makes sense. In a story, you can't really use the carousel format. So that's where as you pick like your placements or what type of ad you're going to use, that all of this stuff matters. You can click on ad preview to share a link or decide, hey, I want to see it. Let me see that post with comments. It will open a new page, and what you're going to see is the way everybody else sees it. So see here down here, here's a comment. Yay, so glad this is happening. I'm glad she's glad. And you could click, you can even reply here, right? You can come in and manage and reply to some of those comments. This is also, and this is something I would highly recommend. If you come in here, let's do it again. So let me start from the beginning. I'm at the ad set level. If I click on the ad and I come up here and click on preview, and then up here is ad preview, and I'm going to choose Facebook post with comments, meaning take me to the actual Facebook post that people see with the comments. One of the best things you can do, you can't do it all the time because then it becomes white noise, but for key things, you can copy this URL up here and you can send it to people in your church, whether it's your staff, whether it's key volunteers, and say, hey, we're getting the word out about this on Facebook. Here's the link. Could you go there and like it and share it? And that would really build traction. So that's a good strategy. Can't overuse it because then people just stop doing it. But that is a good strategy to use. So I'm going to uncheck the box. I'm going to go back to campaign level. And so now you can see, let's just look through some of these ads. We're on lifetime now. So you're seeing, how much money was spent, the results, all that over the lifetime of these ads. So for example, here, this small groups push ad, or even this outdoor service ad, look at that, 62,000 people. We spent $158 of our $225 budget for 62,000 people to see it. That's pretty good, right? Now again, it's social media. So are all of those really good quality views? No, but that's why it's that cheap. And you can see it was seen an average of 1.41 times. And if we go over to impressions, you can see it was 62,000 people saw it 87,000 times. And if I scroll right, I can continue to see some of that performance, like the cost per click data, $1.81, $1.58 per link click. Look at that click-through rate, 0.11% compared to 3.5%. Like, that's terrible, isn't it? And again, that's where it's hard to benchmark. Like, it's hard for me to just say, hey, your click-through rate should be 2%. Ideally, you do want it to be above a percent or around a percent, I would say. Like, if this 0.93 is probably fine. 0.05, 0.11, 0.04, not very good. Now, then you just have to go back to the drawing board. One of the things we talked about in the session about ads is test. Like, you just don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work, what's going to hit, what's just people are just going to skip over. And so you could, if, like, for instance, the blood drive here as an example, if we really needed that to be better, 0.04%, I would go back into it and examine let's go look at it. I would examine the ad content, the text, the image, all of that stuff. So I'm clicked in here to this blood drive ad. And just like I did before, I'm going to click on it to select it. I'm going to hit preview so I can see what it looks like. And it's showing me what it looks like in a mobile news feed, which is going to be where the majority of people see it. And we've got an image that we got from the Red Cross. I can click see more to read the whole thing. And I could start analyzing this, right? Looking for a way to help others. We are partnering with the Red Cross on Friday, October 9th. Host the blood drive. Click below to get signed up. I know we sent an email about this to our church. And one of the angles we used was the idea that 30 people giving blood can save 100 lives. And Red Cross facilities are being used for COVID plasma and helping people who get COVID and drawing plasma from people who have had it to help people who are going to get it or getting it in the future. And so that means they need more of these blood drive locations. When I know that and I come look at this ad and I know it's getting a poor click-through rate, the thing I could ask myself is, well, would it be better to change up this text and start talking about the 30 people saving 100 or more lives. Start talking about Red Cross stations being used for COVID and plasma and needing more stations, and that's why we're stepping up to help meet that need, right? Like we could start to speak more of the language that people would be interested in and listening as they're scrolling. So that's something you can do when you get in there and you realize this isn't doing as well as we thought. So if I look at it on desktop, you can see, again, it's a carousel type ad, but it's just 2 pictures. And even then, you could decide, you know what, if we're just going to do 2 pictures, what if we just run them both separately, and then you can kind of split test that. Like how well is that one doing that's just the image, it says blood drive, versus how well is the one doing with the lady who was getting her blood drawn. And you just never know. Like sometimes I feel like it's predictable. And one thing Facebook does not like is a lot of text in your ad. So for example, this one had, this graphic that says blood drive and all that. I still don't 100% know the reason for this. I think some of it is just a control thing. They want to make sure that like bad content is not making its way onto their ad platform, but they do not like text in ads. And sometimes they won't show it at all. But usually what happens is the more text you have, the less they will show it to people, which means the less effective it will be. So if we ran those 2 as separate images, it could very well be that the other picture, the real picture of that lady, could do way better than the one that's just the graphic. And if that were the case, Facebook, if you did campaign budget optimization, Facebook would say, oh, let's spend more money on this picture then. Or you yourself could say, nope, turn off that one with the graphic because it is not making enough money. And so those are some of the things you can do when you get in here and start looking at some of the numbers.